welcome back to another episode of JP and the Beanstalk.
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
I'm only saying that because I just saw that apparently there's a freaking Roadhouse remake that is being released on Amazon Prime. I'm like, that's just a remake we don't need.
Well, that makes sense of where the release
Right.
is.
Leave Patrick Swayze be. God bless him.
He's dead.
He's dead. Like,
He's
leave the
been
classic.
dead.
Leave the classic untouched. Man, Jake Gyllenhaal? Like, you're kidding me with this crap. Jake Gyllenhaal, like, listen, I understand the guy has put in the work to, to get in shape. I get that. But he just doesn't have the right face. He just has too soft of a face. Too gentle. I just don't buy it. And I know he's been in plenty of physical roles, but not once have I found it believable.
You're saying Patrick Swayze's a little bit more rugged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's got more edge to him. He had freaking mullet.
You want to know what it is? It's the jawline.
Yes.
Swayze had the jawline.
Jawline of a freaking just stone statue.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
It's incredible. And Jake, it's like, no, you just look like someone that, would offer you a hug when you're down. And that's a great quality to have. It's a great quality to have, but you're not Patrick Swayze. You can't rip a dude's throat out.
No,
necessary.
You look like a guy that would trick Spider-Man into stealing his sunglasses and then trying to blow people up with robots because you're too afraid to fight hand to hand.
Yep.
So you're going to use mirages. It's almost like they did that. I don't know, though.
Ooh, wait a minute. Ooh, yeah, ooh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. No, he was fantastic.
I was worried.
No, great as Mysterio. Truly.
No, he was.
Fixed role.
He was great.
For Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay, whatever. The energy's great in the gym. We're here. We're rolling. I'm bamboozled by Jake Gyllenhaal, but God bless him. You seem like a sweet guy. I'm sorry to rag on you. Beans, it's great to be here. I'm excited to pod with you once again. The movie has run dry, but our creative minds flow forevermore.
It's going to be dry for a while.
It's going to be a pretty barren landscape for a bit.
It's going to be the desert. We are the chosen people. Moses is trying to get to the promised land, but it's going to be 40 years.
Ouch. Okay, that's going to be a piece, is what you're saying. That's fair. That's fair. Well, nonetheless, we will bring the manna from frickin' heaven down on a semi-weekly basis.
And we will complain all the way.
Fair.
About what we get.
Hey.
Because the manna isn't necessarily... It's manna.
It's the same. It's the same all the time.
Thing every day.
Yeah. It is. Well, there's been... let's just touch on some news and notes, some really exciting pieces before we get into the meat of the episode. So you're going to talk, obviously, about the Spider-Man 2 game that you just finished. That's exciting. We're going to hit some of our classic segments, such as the C-list hero or villain of the week. The new segment that I'm going to bring to the table is going to be a Fantastic Four update of the week. I have been just head deep, just soaking in Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run. It's been incredible. I have loved every second of it. And so I think with as meaty as it is, it makes sense to take a chunk of the story and just go through it every podcast just to get us hyped up for that Fantastic Four movie that someday will come out. But just reading Hickman's run has me excited for that movie. We'll hit another classic JP and the Beans top 5. Because of course we will. So there's all kinds of good things.
And we had a dumb power too, don't forget it.
Oh boy, and a dumb power. That's what a joy to highlight those. That is a new one. But before we get into all that, we are excited because the news around again, sometime down the road, Daredevil Born Again show continues to be very positive. They are bringing back our boy Bullseye from season 3. So that is fan-freaking-tastic. Wilson Bethel. Not a great name, quite frankly.
He looks like a bullseye, though.
But he was tremendous.
He looks psychotic.
Yep, he pulled it off very well.
Still haven't seen it yet?
Yep. You still have to take in season 3, but you
which
you treat
we
yourself.
Will pursue.
That's right. That's part of the reason that we're bringing this up is we are going to review seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Daredevil on the pod because why not retread that beautiful, beautiful earth? I think we should.
I think we should too.
Yeah.
It's time. It's time for a refresher.
Well, and it sounds as though John Bernthal is going to be brought back in his role as the Punisher. I don't think that's official.
No, I think it's
yet.
official.
Have they made it official?
I'm 98% sure it's official.
Okay. I'm 2% doubting, but I want to believe.
I will Google while you continue speaking.
But truly, like, what a delight that those characters, and not just those characters, but the story that we were given through those Netflix series, it's being restored, and that's a gift that I didn't think we were ever going to get. But thanks in no small part to Wilson Fisk's role in Echo, which again, much better than I expected it to be. I think it just added validity to the fact that, hey, these ground level characters, whether they be hero, anti-hero, heck, even villain, they're worth spending time with. So it's very exciting to see this, call it sub-universe of sorts, get restored.
As of March 2023, John Bernthal has been confirmed to be coming back as the Punisher.
Wow. Okay.
He is coming. Okay. Everybody watch out. Also, I've heard Luke Cage and Jessica Jones are rumored to also appear.
I'd be all for that.
So
all for
I am also all for it. I think that's great.
Yep.
So,
and it seems as though the folks they've got in the leadership seats are the right ones to have as well.
Agreed.
So they've brought in some of that Loki crew, so that's pretty fantastic because obviously they crushed it, and so to have that group driving the bus, so to speak, for Daredevil and the rest of those characters, that's very exciting.
Sure.
Yeah, very, very exciting. So, any other news and notes you wanted to hit on real quick? Those were there's not a lot, but those were positive, so I didn't want to move on without highlighting those positives.
No, I think we're good.
Okay. So Beans, we're gonna start the meat of the podcast by me putting you on the spot with a question that you don't know is coming.
Oh, I forgot to. Yep. You know what?
Yep.
I also forgot to form a question for you, so I apologize.
No, that's okay. This is great. You won't be able to reciprocate, and that's wonderful. So it's totally one-sided.
Wait, literally one ear out the other. I was like, oh yeah, I can form a question, and I was like focused on getting all this other stuff.
Nah.
My other stuff, 2 things.
No.
And
that's stuff.
I know, but sometimes
it's more than one.
I will say this: that damn audio mixer has been my living hell. So I blame that for not having a question.
And yet you will scale that wrist. Okay, here you go. So Beans, question for you: who, in all of the movies and shows that we've had in the last, well, just say your lifetime. Okay, so we'll go pretty broad here. Who among all of the super heroines, or perhaps villainesses, have you found most attractive? That's right, you're on the spot. Who has been your girl, Beans?
Oh God, I feel like she's going to say a lot about me.
That's fine. As it should. We're trying to get to know Beans even better. This is great. And say She-Hulk, we're done.
No. I'm trying to think of like all the women.
What to choose from?
I will tell you right now, neither one of the MJs. Okay, we have not had a knockout Mary Jane. We haven't. Okay. I'm just going to throw that out there. I can also tell you.
Fight you because Kirsten Dunst.
She's okay.
Different times.
Okay.
Different times. Yeah. All right.
Anyways.
All right.
I go to X-Men, and I'm not coming up with anything. Halle Berry. Not bad.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's taking the lead there as the X-Men.
Yep.
But as I'm thinking MCU, 2 come to mind for sure. Okay. Peggy Carter. I totally get why he went back. Oh yeah, 100%. And Florence Pugh. I actually fell in love with Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
In Black Widow, she's the only good thing about it. I'm just trying to think.
Choices.
Yeah.
2 great choices.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of like
very fiery personalities, right? A lot of drive there.
Yeah,
in both cases.
Yes, that's a weakness for me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other movies too. Is like, man, that's the hardest part. Let's see here. I'm just trying to. There's so many options.
Listen, Peggy and Yelena are great choices.
I'm gonna stick with that for now.
That's great. That's phenomenal.
But yes,
and it's kind of the strong personality that really draws you in.
And Jessica Alba, Invisible Woman, 100%.
There you go.
That's a pull.
That's a nice.
That's
pull.
a great
That's
pull.
A nice pull
that was her in her prime. So, yes. So those are the three that come to mind. But yes, accents get me. Accents get me every time.
How can they not?
So.
And that's a common theme for both Peggy and Yelena.
I know.
Different accents, but also obviously different characters. So that's just fine.
Yeah. The British accents is up there for me. I'm like, it's like I know I'm missing one, and it will eat me alive later.
You can always come back to it.
Always just watch me just yell out a random woman's name throughout the entirety of this podcast. I'll do it too. I don't even care.
That's great. No, those are good, really strong choices. It's good to know a little bit more about you, like what really tripped the trigger there. That's wonderful.
Strong personalities and accents, / speaking another language. Oh my gosh.
No, good on you. Well, that's great. Okay, well, Beans, without further ado, since you just slammed on MJ real hard, let's get into some MJ adjacent talk with Spider-Man 2. On the PS5, you just recently got through the game. Approximately how many hours? Just curious, like, does it take to get through a game like that? I'm so out of the gaming loop.
Oh, God, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, and just, like, broad brush here. So total
approximate.
I mean, it's not a short amount of time, I know.
I know, I want to say 20 hours is undermining it.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to check real quick.
Because games anymore are just so expansive, right? It's not... like, I'll give you a little context here. I'm playing the Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Country with Wesley every once in a while on the weekends. And it's just hilarious how, I mean, literally, of course, two-dimensional that game is, right? Like, you go from left, right. That's the world. And then the games that are really wild, you can go back.
Right.
Left. But there was a time when in those games, no, as soon as you had parted an area going left to right, you couldn't go back. You're done. You just got to keep going. And since that was like my youth and my childhood growing up, how games were designed, makes me sound so old to say, but it still like surprises me every time there's a little bit. Not so much surprise, but just amazes me every time that there's this open world kind of concept game. Like that's just incredible. And that's normal for most people who are playing games. To me, that's still like I still have old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games in my mind and Mario Brothers games where it's just nope, left to right. There you go. So it's incredible. We've clearly come a long way.
Oh yeah,
is the point.
Sure. Yeah. So
a long way.
I was gonna guess 20 hours. Mm-hmm. And my guess is probably right.
Yep.
So they said 15 to 18 on average for the main story and 24 to 28 to 100% it.
Mm-hmm.
I have not 100%ed it. I am close. I have a couple side missions stuff left.
Right.
With Miles. But yes, so
that's great.
Lots and lots of time invested.
Yeah. Okay. What are some of the highlights?
Highlights for this game. Just the fresh takes on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the highlight throughout this entire Insomniac universe.
Yeah. And this is the second game in the Insomniac universe?
Technically third. So they did Spider-Man, and then they did Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Gotcha.
Which was like a Spider-Man bonus, like
interesting
side story kind of thing with Miles, which still great.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man 2, where you're playing Peter and Miles, and you're switching throughout the story, and you can switch whenever you want.
Yeah.
But obviously, Miles is a lot more fun because he can turn invisible and he can electrocute people. You can't do that with Peter. Now, on the contrary, Peter gets the symbiote suit in this, so he gets the symbiote powers. So, to each their own. Okay. But there are a lot of good twists and that's what I like. I
Right.
personally like the new takes on the characters.
Mhm.
So
Well, that's nice when, like, we talked about this on the previous podcast with alternate take, uh, comic stories where the author is able to maintain the core of that character, but put just the right, enough of a twist where it provides a fresh take, fresh perspective on that character. That's pretty fantastic.
So, and I'll talk about a few characters, and it won't just be from Spider-Man 2, but just
Yep.
to like kind of flesh out the alternate takes.
Of
So,
course.
spoilers ahead.
Of course.
If you're gonna play the video games. So, from Spider-Man 1, they really do big favors for Mr. Negative.
Yep.
They make him one of the focal points of the game. He's the second big boss.
Yep.
He has like this history with Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn is the reason why he gets his superpowers and the reason for the death of his parents. And so he's like, I'm going to kill Norman Osborn. So,
because Osborn like trying to develop some kind of superhuman serum at this point?
No. So where Norman is at, Norman is not a bad guy yet.
Okay.
Like he does some shady business deals and stuff, and like does some things that he shouldn't.
Right.
But,
he's not this outright villain.
Right. And but his motivations are Harry loses his mom.
Okay.
When he's in high school.
Okay.
So she battled this disease for a very long time. Mm-hmm. So he's doing everything in his power to try to come up with a cure.
Right.
Can't find one.
Okay.
Harry also has the same disease. So he's trying to cure Harry throughout the entire first one, right?
Right.
So that starts with that, and then you have the building of the Sinister Six, and you watch Otto Octavius become Dr. Octopus. Mm-hmm. I think it's even more tragic than in Spider-Man 2, the movie, because you spend more time with him. You actually see that this guy's like trying to help the world,
right?
But he's starting to lose.
He has these altruistic motives, but he's just losing his humanity behind it,
right? And he's also losing like his limbs. So like this version of Otto, the reason he's building the arms is so he can still move around when he goes full on quadriplegic.
Right.
And that's the one thing he's trying not to lose, and with that loses his sanity. And he also goes after Norman because he originally worked for Norman, and then Norman screwed him and fired him, and so he's like working out of this like base of like the smaller science thing, and Peter's like his intern, so Peter's like trying to help him get to that point. And so that's kind of the first game. Miles gets his powers at the end. Miles loses his dad to Mr. Negative, so Mr. Negative becomes his like Green Goblin essentially.
Right.
And then you go to Miles Morales' game. He's dealing with Roxxon, and he's dealing with the Tinkerer. Now, if you remember the Tinkerer, he's this old guy that just kind of supplies villains with superpowers.
Right, he looks like a shriveled up Ebenezer Scrooge, but he suits up supervillains.
Right. So this version of the Tinkerer is one of Miles' best friends growing up, and she is a black girl now, and she's like she's leading this underground revolution group. Trying to take the technology out of Roxxon's hands and then use it for their own gain, essentially, right? So it's like this super powered gang or whatever, and so that's kind of where that leads. And then he dies.
As one does in these games.
Yes. So and that's mainly the focus in that one. There's not too many other. Prowler. Prowler obviously comes in and plays a big part. He plays a big part in the second one too. But Spider-Man 2. 2 villains, Kraven the Hunter, Venom. Kraven is badass in this.
Right.
They did him nothing but favors. He kills off the Scorpion, kills off Vulture, kills off Shocker.
That's wild. Like, does he kill them just for the thrill of the hunt? Or are they just getting in his way? Like, what's his motive for killing those particular villains rather than like partnering with them? For example,
it's kind of like the Last Hunt.
Yeah.
In the sense of the Last Hunt, he goes after Spider-Man because he's trying to like find something
that is challenging,
that
right?
can actually take him out.
Sure.
Because the way that he was raised in his family is that he's going to kill everything, and the only way he is going to die is in the heat of the hunt.
Okay.
So he's either going to get taken out by stronger thing. He has cancer. He can't cure his cancer.
Yep.
He knows he's going to die soon. Yep. So this guy is desperate to find something to kill him because he does not want to go out with the cancer.
Right.
So he comes into New York. He challenges all these villains, etc., etc. Comes in. Symbiote gets involved. Harry comes back.
Okay.
And that was the way that Norman found that cured Harry of his sickness, because that's what the symbiote does.
Sure.
You remember Venom with Tom Hardy?
Right.
He has his cancer. The symbiote comes in, it cures the cancer.
Yep.
Does the same thing for him. And then Kraven stabs Peter in the chest. And I thought he was going to die. And he technically does die. The symbiote comes in, saves Peter's life. He comes back, tries to give Harry the symbiote back. The symbiote won't leave. And then you start to see this slow turn in Peter throughout the story until finally Miles is able to get it off of him.
Okay.
But they capture it. Harry gets a hold of it again, go full on Venom. So Harry Osborn is this universe's Venom. It's not Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock is not involved.
Not even a factor. Okay.
Right. So, he goes on a rampage, tries to take over the Earth, like turning everybody into symbiotes. Everybody's symbiotic.
Yep.
And then one of the really fascinating turns in this is they actually make Peter the anti-Venom. So if you've seen that storyline at all, there's one story called Spider Island in the comics.
Yep.
So everybody gets Spider-Man powers,
right?
And the only way to cure it is Eddie Brock when he turns into anti-Venom, and he has this interaction with Mr. Negative.
Yep.
So instead of that, they're like, hey, the symbiote is still kind of in you, which, if you've heard anything with King of Black, that's kind of the storyline, is that the symbiote host still always leaves a little bit.
Peace.
So those people are still tied to the hive.
Yep.
Same thing kind of happens.
Fascinating.
He gets the anti-Venom, beats Venom, cures him, whatever. So that's kind of the main story for that.
Right.
They hint at the end of it that Norman and Otto are going to team back up again, because Norman is like, we're going to kill the Spider-Men because they said they would save my son. Instead, he's just in a coma now, and he's worse off than he was before.
So does Harry, by the time that he is separated from the Venom symbiote, is he still stricken with the same disease, or is he just in a coma because of the battle, with the Spider-Men?
Both.
Yeah.
So he actually does die for a little bit until Miles brings him back with his electrical powers.
Gotcha.
Fancy dancy. So they actually hint.
Miles just a walking defibrillator.
Right. So they talk. So once they find out the symbiote is the symbiote,
right,
they are trying. And by the way, Kirk Connors is in there. Most full lizard. Kraven turns him back into the lizard.
Wild.
This version of the lizard, badass.
He's freaking huge.
Most badass version of the lizard. Period.
Right.
That's the lizard that I want to see from now on. These duties.
Yeah.
Insane.
Spikes all over his back. Right.
Yeah.
What I saw on YouTube.
Well, there's literally this one really scary scene when they first introduce him.
Yeah.
He's at this fish market, right? And so he's eating, he's getting bigger, right? And so this is not the first time Kirk Connors has turned into the lizard.
Okay.
But this iteration, Kraven modified it. That's the word I wanted.
Right.
Modifies it so it would make him stronger when he turned.
Nice.
And so when they open up this garage stall or whatever, it's just a shedded skin. And they're like, oh no. So it's fantastic.
That's great.
But yeah, throughout the whole thing, after they find out he's an alien, Norman hints that he's trying to come up with a different option to save Harry.
Yep.
And at the end, he's like, go grab the G serum, which Goblin serum.
Pretty easy to draw those connections.
Yes, he's going full Green Goblin in the third one, which I'm super excited for.
Yeah.
Sounds like Doc Ock is returning as well. The only downside is like Peter's kind of semi-retiring for a little bit, so Miles is going to be the main focus of the third one, which is fine. Yeah. I liked it better when you were Miles and Peter, and they were working together. That felt a lot better. But Miles is going to be the focus of the third one, and I know they've hinted at a Venom spinoff game for it as well.
Sure.
They're also doing Wolverine, but and then there's another storyline with Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah.
He doesn't go Carnage. He gets the Carnage symbiote. Like, that's the whole storyline of that. So we'll probably get Carnage in the third one.
Right.
Or that's for the Venom movie.
Yeah.
But each character really has a really cool story arc.
Yeah. Did you feel like they rushed any of the villains, right? Where the villain's just there, you battle them, it's over. You're like, well, I wish we would have had more time with that villain.
Yes and no. I mean, so the first game, he's been Spider-Man for 10 years. So he's already established. He's already fought the Vulture before.
Sure.
He's already fought the Rhino before.
Yep.
Like, Sinister Six
gallery.
becomes, there because whatever. So you don't really miss out on like like you fight them, but you're not like wanting more from them. Gotcha. I think they do a really good job at like making the ones that they choose to like more sympathetic. Like Sandman, you fight.
They're actually fleshing the villains out, so it's not just black and white. Hey, bad guy, no duh. There's actually some true motivation behind their actions.
Right. Like Otto Prime is a good example. Sandman's a great example because he's the big boss battle first. You're fighting Sandman, he goes berserk, and you're trying to figure out why. You later on find out that first of all, he's been trying to like not ever be Sandman again. Like he's like, I don't want to be Sandman. I know if I go Sandman, I'll go crazy.
Right.
Like he's been trying. He's got a daughter, and he goes crazy because Kraven gets involved. Tries to get him to fight him. Tries to take his daughter, so he like freaks out because he's like, I'm gonna do whatever I can to protect my kid. And like, you don't get that really out of anything else. Maybe Spider-Man 3.
Right.
I think they do a good job at redeeming Flint in that.
I agree.
So with those characters that they choose to work on, they really flesh out.
Right.
And I think some of them, they're like Scorpion, for example. They're like,
we're not going to give this guy a whole lot of time.
Like they still hint at like him having pretty much the same origin as normal.
Yeah.
Where J. Jonah Jameson invests all this money.
Sure.
Into finding somebody who can take Spider-Man out for good. And then
takes JJ.
They pick a guy. Right. They pick a Scorpion because that's the natural enemy to the Spider. And then the dude gets trapped in the suit and loses his shit. So I'm pretty sure that's still consistent.
Saw that coming.
Yeah. But so yes, I would say they do a great job at fleshing those out. And I think they do a great job of taking characters that I don't give a crap about beforehand and actually giving a crap seeing what they do. Like they hint at Silk in this next one. Okay. She was also bit by the same spider as Peter Parker. Oh, fun fact. Okay. I'm assuming
spiders double dipping.
Instead of Peter, it was the same one that bit Miles because they're around the same age. It seems like.
Gotcha.
So I think they're probably changing that up a little bit.
Sure.
Which and
good choice.
Yes. So where was I going with that?
Yeah.
But yes.
That's good. What's from your perspective, having played through both the first and second game, did you play through the Miles Morales game as well? Okay. So you've played through all 3 games so far in the Insomniac universe. Is there anything that you would go, hey, this is an opportunity for improvement with those games, or are these just keep cynical, don't change a thing, keep doing what you're doing?
No, because I think they do a really good job with the main story. The only thing I would maybe do is like have side stories have more like boss fights, essentially.
Gotcha.
Like they kind of they had a DLC for the first one, and it's so funny because they turned Hammerhead into this like regular Hammerhead mobster guy into a legitimate cyborg. Like they're just like they make him huge, ginormous, Cyborg, right?
Yep.
So they have that little side story, but
Yep.
like outside of that, they have in this one they had the Cletus Cassidy side story.
Okay.
Right? They have Mysterio is trying to like redeem himself now.
Yep.
So he has these like illusion centers across the city, but they're going haywire. So somebody's like, this is one of them that I haven't finished yet, but that's what I kind of wish they would have done more with, more stuff like that, where the villain, because they had Sandman still be involved, and like you're trying to repair his memories, but all these sand people were around, and so you have to beat them to get his memories back. Yeah, but I think that would be the only thing for me personally.
Yeah.
So.
And we've talked about this not on podcasts before, so that's why I'm excited to talk about the game today. But Spider-Man and Batman, to me, are the two. I'm sure there could be others, but to me, those are the two comic book characters that, if you're going to play a video game as that character, I think what's so unique about the gameplay for those characters is they're obviously exceptional beings, right? Spider-Man has more of a unique set of physical abilities than Batman does. But there's something about, I played some of the Arkham games, and you just freaking feel like Batman when you're playing that game. And I've not played these Spider-Man games, but I had my own Spider-Man game way back in the day. I think it was based off the original Spider-Man movie from 2000 or 2002. And that game just gave me that same feeling, that same sense of, holy crap, like swinging through New York City with the web. It feels different than when you're trying to play. Like, there's a reason there's not a lot of Superman video games. Right? Because it doesn't feel, there's not that same level of connection. Right. And I think that's just one of the greatest things about these games. And plus, good grief, like the fighting style of Spider-Man is so acrobatic, so fluid, so unique, like infinitely creative opportunities.
Web shooters are my favorite part.
Absolutely.
100%. I web people up all the time. Like, I was playing the Venom boss fight, and I'm webbing Venom up, and they're like, this doesn't work on him. I'm like, I don't care. I kept using it, because technically you get a little bit of like health back that way. So,
yeah.
But I think what's great about those two specifically, and this game does a good job of it, and I'm sure the Arkham games do a really good job of this too. But Batman and Spider-Man try so hard in rehabilitating their villains, and it's not like it's not like an Apocalypse where it's like, oh, he's a lost cause. It's like Batman is trying so hard with the Joker to just get him to chill out.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's a great scene in the comics, and I don't know what storyline it is or whatever, but Rhino kind of goes berserk.
Yep.
And it's because this guy brings his wife back, and he finds out it's not actually his wife. It's like a clone, and she dies.
Right.
And he's breaking down crying because he's like, I lost her all over again.
Yep.
And Pete's like, I know, I'm here for you. But like, even in this, like,
there's a level of care there that
he's fighting Otto the entire time, and the whole time he's like, you need to stop. Like, this isn't who you are.
Sure.
The same with Harry. He's trying so hard to get through to Harry, but the symbiote's just too strong.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good observation. Really good observation. Yeah. Well, I just think, again, I haven't played the game, but just watching a couple of videos on YouTube so far, the other thing I'm just blown away with is just how unbelievably good the game looks. Like, the graphics are.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It seriously, it dazzles me. Like, it's borderline lifelike, and it's while you're playing the game, right? So I remember Halo 2, the graphic level when you're playing the game is on a scale of, reasonable scale of 1 to 10. It's somewhere in that 5 to 6 range, right? Like, it's great for the game, but it's clearly there's just an obvious disconnect that takes place in your mind. It's like, this is a game. but the cutscenes in that game, they did at an entirely different level. Like they ramped it up to an 8 or 9.
Right.
And so it's outrageously like cinematic, and not in a negative way, but it's just such a contrast. And yet you fast forward, however many years since Halo 2 came out and now, and the just sheer detail. It's like, this looks like a freaking movie while you're playing the game.
Yeah.
It just blows me away, Riley.
And I think that's one of the compliments to this is like, even when you get into the cutscenes and stuff, like it doesn't feel like there's a cutoff where it's so much better. Like it feels like it's a continuation.
Yes.
Dude, just swinging around New York City as a whole is so fun in this game. Right. It's insane.
Right.
So, and then they added gliding into it too this time, and my gosh, it's awesome.
Aren't there like wind tunnels that you can kind of hit in between the buildings to coast?
And here's the best part, the craziest part. So in the first one, they had fast travel, right? But they would have these like loading screens. You'd be in the subway, like thinking around, waiting to get to your next spot. In this one, you can fast travel. You're already swinging into the other location as soon as you fast travel. So that was one of the highlights of the PlayStation 5. They're like, oh, the fast travel's gone. So
you're just there.
It's crazy how far we've come.
Yeah, it's wild to me. So the last question that I've got on this topic, how does the experience from the point of view of how immersive it feels of this kind of format feel compared to when you're, reading a Spider-Man comic, watching a Spider-Man movie or show? Like, how does that compare?
Like, on like what level?
Like you feel, and it's just more of just truly like a personal preference or personal experience. Like, does this feel most immersive or the most enjoyable way to connect with the character is in playing the game, or is it in watching the movie? Or, I mean, it's probably a yes to both, but like what for you has felt most immersive is the word I'm using, but connected, there's perhaps a different word. Maybe there's not a perfect word for it.
I would probably say, like, going through all the Spider-Man content that I've consumed, this is probably my favorite version of the character.
Sure.
Hands down. And probably part of that is the video game aspect, because you are the story. Like, it's not that you're watching Peter go through that. You are Peter Parker.
Right.
Like, that's the closest you'll ever be to Spider-Man is this game. And so to see that, him connect with all these characters, him watching Aunt May die, she dies in the first one, and him watching Harry Osborn almost die. So you watch him lose pretty much his mom, you almost his best friend. Like his best friend almost dies, right? So, and that's kind of like his conflict with Mary Jane in the first one, because they're not really together right at the start.
Sure.
They like separated because he's like, I don't want her to get hurt. And which is
Spider-Man move.
That's a Peter. And so I would say from a personal standpoint, I would say this is probably the most immersive that you could possibly get.
Right.
You're also making all the decisions on whether or not you want to stop crime, because they just have constant crime hitting up. So to me, yes, I would say it's probably the most immersive. Again, I think this is my favorite iteration of the character because it's different, and it's one of those things, right, where they take a certain character, and this is one of our biggest complaints about the MCU, and we won't dive too deep into this because we always do anyways, and we hate it. So when the MCU comes along, let's use Flag Smasher as a prime example, right?
Right.
They take Flag Smasher, they're like, let's make Flag Smasher, instead of being this dude that's like a nationalist for a different country.
Right.
We're going to make it a young girl, and we're going to make it super conflicting, but they make her character not interesting at all. Right? With this, they make Otto more interesting. I think the Tinkerer, that revamp of the Tinkerer, much needed. An actual legitimate villain, an actual legitimate fight. He's not this old cranky dude that's just supplying villains with tech, right? It would have been cooler to see her actually do that and like have a deal with the Vulture on the side. That would have been dope. It's not what she did, but
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's, whether it's the Arkham games or from what I can gather, I think the Spider-Man games have improved even on what the Arkham games did. I think the Arkham games were a lot of fun to play because of the open world concept. The campaigns were really enjoyable. But I don't know from just a sheer like storytelling point of view how much those games really did, right? As far as developing more of the Batman character and the villains. I think they were more, hey, presented and it was an entertaining experience. But I think something that has fascinated me about just like listening to you talk about this game, there is a real emphasis placed on, yeah, you're playing a game, but it's in a fully fleshed out and engaging story with characters that are being developed as the story progresses. Right? So it's a living organic thing as opposed to you're just in the environment. The characters are all like they're all set. Really, those equations aren't changing. And so to make it that kind of a storytelling experience, that's just kind of like next level connectivity, in my opinion. That's pretty wild. And maybe that's, again, I'm so disconnected from video games. Maybe that's more normal than what I am aware of. But either way, even if it's quote unquote normal, it's a heck of an accomplishment, I think.
Well, it just makes me more excited to go grab another Insomniac game.
Yep.
Right? They're doing Wolverine.
Right.
I'm all over it because I want to see their take on the X-Men. I want to see their take on Wolverine's villains. I want to see their take on Wolverine, period. I don't know what they're going to do with it, right? But Venom, I would love to see what they do with Venom because you get to play as Venom for just a wee bit. And oh my gosh, dude. Just by the way, in case you didn't know, you want to know how Venom establishes himself as Venom in this universe? He eats Kraven's head clean off of his body.
That's a pretty good come up.
Oh my gosh. It's insane. And obviously they show it like off screen kind of, but like, what?
Right.
So, and they make MJ scream for a little bit. That was crazy. Mm-hmm. You fight MJ for a little while. So now they're like tearjerker for Peter. He's like, I don't want to hurt her. But
Oh
yeah.
Oh,
I could keep talking about the game, but we absolutely don't have to.
No, that's great. Thanks for recapping that.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad it was I'm glad it hit the mark as far as expectations and just delivering.
Go play it if you haven't played it yet. Start at the first one. It's great and it just builds. And I'm so excited for the third one. The third one's going to be so good.
How much time do we think it'll be between now and the third one? I mean, probably
some
years. A few years, right?
Yeah, some years. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 2028.
Sure.
Another 4 years.
Sure.
That's how I want it, though.
Right.
Like, dude, honestly, if in 2 years they're like, all right, let's drop Venom, I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
That gives you another 2 years for another one.
Right.
Great. Fantastic. So I'll play a Venom game. After that, oh, yeah. That was awesome. I don't know how they'll tie it with Eddie. I'm sure they'll tie it in with Eddie. That would be great.
Yeah, do it.
We'll see.
Do it.
Yeah. So
just gotta slow cook these things, right?
For sure.
Don't rush them so you can keep hitting that expected level of excellence.
And I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I've been pretty impressed with Insomniac.
Yeah, they'll take their time.
Yeah. Yes.
That's lovely. Good things, Beans. Well, again, thanks for the recap. That's fantastic. On to the next segment, which is our C-list hero or villain of the pod. So the point here is to hit up a character, whether it be hero or villain, that most of our listeners probably have never heard of, which is great. So just for funsies, right? So I get to take the lead on this one on this pod, and I'm highlighting Lucia von Bardis.
I did know this one.
Well, yeah, I'm really pleased that you knew this character. And you know her from one of is it Secret Alliance?
Ultimate Alliance 2. She's the opening villain because she goes crazy and she's like, "You're going to bomb the United States of America."
Yeah.
That's how she starts.
That is...
And she's a gross robot lady.
Oh, yeah. That's her move, man.
Super ugly in Ultimate Alliance 2. Let me see if I can pull up a picture for you. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, no. Everything I've said so far is extremely accurate about her. So, dear sweet Lucia, all right, she is the prime minister of Latveria. Latveria, of course, being the fictional nation that has gained fame because it is the dominion of Victor Von Doom. And of course, dear sweet Dr. Doom has ruled Latveria as its dictator. However, at this point in the story, oh yeah, she's hideous.
Yeah, and
disgusting.
yeah,
Yeah. This point in the story, which is the Secret War comic that I've talked about before, this is pre-Civil War, okay? But this is a time, like, this would have been later 2000s when Brian Michael Bendis is just cranking out freaking top-notch Marvel content. So maybe more mid-2000s, but I digress. Anyhow, Nick Fury discovers that our dear sweet Lucia, although she is the prime minister of Latveria and has been placed there by the U.S. government, so in other words, she has the U.S. government's full support and evidently partnership, Lucia is not as pristine and clean as she has led others to believe. She is, through the aid of your dear sweet the Tinkerer, payrolling supervillains in the United States. Because Nick Fury starts asking the question like, wait a minute, how does this villain have this incredible tech? How can they even afford it? Right? And he comes to connect the dots and realize, okay, they're getting funded by someone, and he reverse engineers it all the way back to Latveria and Lucia von Bartis. And so Nick Fury takes his findings to his superiors at the U.S. government and says, hey, I got some bad news. Our supposed friend is actually helping these villains be successful and gain more powers. And the U.S. government's like, yep, okay, hard to hear about that. Well, moving on. And they choose to literally do nothing about it. And so Nick Fury goes, alrighty then. Well, I'm going to have to take matters into my own hands, recruits a super team of heroes to go and freaking assassinate Lucia, but not to assassinate her quietly. No. He wants to go and rip down the Latvian castle, the former home of Von Doom, and he does destroy the castle and just drops it right on top of her.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because that's legitimately Ultimate Alliance 2.
Absolutely,
it's
absolutely,
it's scene for scene.
Yep, which good on Ultimate Alliance 2 because they drew from a phenomenal, phenomenal.
It was literally that, and then it skips a couple years later, and then that's when she's like, blow up the United States.
Exactly what happened. So, because comics, even though she got crushed by a castle, wait a minute, no, she's not dead. He's half cyborg, half human, and the half cyborg part is apparently a freaking bomb. So she comes back to the United States. It's legitimately, she's a bomb. She's like, I'm going to blow up New York City. But this is where the character of Quake gets introduced. So Daisy Johnson, a.k.a. Quake, who has the ability to cause tremors or, minor earthquakes. And she takes down Lucia by causing a tremor inside of her heart. So she essentially blows up her from the inside out. It's incredible. It's one of the coolest takedowns ever. Yeah, it's really, really phenomenal. So really great story. Lucia von Bartis, hideous, but comes back from the dead. She almost takes down New York City. She's formidable.
It's honestly crazy how they ripped out pretty much Secret Wars and Civil War.
That's great.
Because they in
the Ultimate Alliance,
because they do cover the explosion of the that
the raft.
No, the teenage group of heroes that die from Nitro. Nitro's the bad guy. I can't remember the name.
I can't either.
Yeah,
I have rollerblades and thunderbolts in my head, and neither of those are. Yeah, I know.
I keep going. Young something. Young new. Were they new?
I got rollerblades. I don't know.
So yes.
So there you go. There's your C list. In this case, villainess of the pod, Lucia von Bartis. Or read Secret War. It's good.
Oh yeah.
And the art is fan-freaking-tastic. It's It's terrific. And one of the cool things, last plug I'll give to that book, the back of that graphic novel has, like, after the story ends, it has a bunch of, like, Nick Fury's files on different heroes that he's thinking about recruiting. Yeah, it's a fun, in other words, after you're done with the story, it's just another great number of hours to spend looking through notes from Nick Fury's perspective on different heroes and essentially like how willing they would be to join his team to take down Latveria. So pretty dang cool. But anywho, Riles, moving on.
It was the New Warriors.
Oh, the New Warriors.
I knew it was new something.
Okay, yeah.
I
don't know where the rollerblades came in. I don't know. I don't know. I just, yeah.
I knew that would come in handy.
That encyclopedia.
Finally, it wasn't too obscure.
Thank you, New Warriors.
I'm too good for the encyclopedia. That's what we found out.
I love it. You just are. You know more than the encyclopedia knows. It's incredible. All right, Riles. Next segment on the docket is our dumb power of the...
Okay, so it's really funny because this gets progressively worse. So, it's a mutant.
Okay.
His name is Fabio Medina. Okay. Now, originally, his name was Gold Balls.
Did you say Gold Balls?
Gold Balls.
Oh my gosh.
And he would just shoot gold balls out of his body.
Oh my gosh.
Now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That
sounds like an Austin Powers villain.
Correct. Now here's that's not even the best part. Okay. So later on, and now the Krakoan Age of Mutants comes into play, right? All the mutants move to Krakoa. They are now their own nation.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
So the mutants find a way where they can revive anyone. And there are 5 key X-Men.
Okay.
And our boy Goldballs is one of those key X-Men. Because they find out that, hey, those gold balls he's shooting out, they aren't gold balls, they're eggs.
Oh, no. No.
Henceforth, he gets renamed as Egg. So these are where the new X-Men, once they die and revive, that is where they come out of. It's his eggs. It's a part of it. Okay? He is one of the 5. Those comics. So,
I'm so bothered.
That is my dumb power of the day. Nice, quick, and easy. In and out.
Egg.
So,
balls.
These 5 X-Men, I'm trying to remember. I know Hope Summer's involved. Who else is involved? I want to say Synch is involved. And then there could be 2 more.
And this is with the kind of the process of reviving mutants on Krakoa.
Correct.
Right? Because when the X-Men, for lack of a better phrase, like migrate to Krakoa, like the mutant population is still relatively small, right? Like it's not at its peak. It's still working its way back from Scarlet Witch's no more mutants curse, for lack of a better word. Yeah.
Tempest, Proteus, Hope Summers, Elixir, and Egg. So Synch is not one of them. Yes.
Just what really there's a lot of things to be upset about. What really upsets me is that that's not a character from the 1970s. That is a very recent, like within the last decade in comics. And yet here we are with Egg.
Yes. So, yes, all 5 of those X-Men have a specific role in the process of revival.
Oh my gosh. So that's quite tough.
Hope is always with the rebirth.
Which
she always is.
Fine, but Egg?
Well, because if you remember, Avengers vs. X-Men, they bring back the mutant powers. Avengers vs. X-Men.
Yeah.
And then Cyclops gets arrested, puts in prison, whatever, all that fun stuff.
Cyclops has lived a tough
they really took a shit on Cyclops in 2010 to 2025.
I wonder who hated Cyclops at Marvel, right? Who's like, I'm done with this guy. Let's make him just, he's kind of hard to like at times, but let's make him just the worst. Let's make him awful.
Okay, let's just be real. They get really weird with the X-Men. I feel like the X-Men, they're like, let's live out weird fantasies with the X-Men. Because especially with Krakoa and look, Jonathan Hickman wrote like the original start of the Clone Age.
Yeah.
They do a weird like. So Cyclops is with Emma and with Jean, but then Wolverine is also with Jean, and it's like kind of implied that other things happen. That's super weird, dude.
Yeah.
They are uncomfortably weird.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. When we won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but there's so much potential for those characters and for that group to not just be weird for the sake of being weird, right? Be unique, absolutely. But you can be unique without being
social pariah.
Yeah. Right? It's like this is.
I don't get it. It's the same obsession that Bendis had with putting Peter Parker with Kitty Pryde because he really wanted to be with Kitty Pryde. Yes. Do you ever hear about that?
Yeah,
that's a thing. Yeah. So it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's comic book writers being allowed to be too weird. Okay. So in an effort to try and bring it back to normal, so no, you're okay. You mentioned Jonathan Hickman. So Hickman has written an extensive Fantastic Four run that started here in the last 10 years or so, picked up immediately after the events of, I was going to say Civil War, but no, not Civil War, after Secret Invasion. Okay, so when the Skrulls pull off their almost successful takeover of Earth by infiltrating the Avengers and every layer of humanity. So it has been such a joy to read that I want to take a chunk of the story and just present it essentially with each podcast here for the next several weeks. So in this stage of the Fantastic Four, obviously we know Reed Richards, Sue Richards, they're married. They also have two children at this stage that they're both less than 10, so they're not very old. They're exceptionally precocious, and so they're ridiculously gifted, intelligent, and very powered. So there's Franklin, the son, and then there's Valeria, their daughter. So Franklin and Val is what they call her all the time. And then of course there's Thing and Johnny Storm. Your steady Eddies, right? So coming out of Secret Invasion, part of what made the Skrull invasion possible is that Reed, as a member of the Illuminati, so along with Black Bolt, along with Iron Man, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, and Namor, I think that's T'Challa, Black Panther was a part of that group as well. They had inadvertently weakened Earth through numerous, frankly, just bad decisions, not the least of which was telling Bruce Banner and the Hulk, hey, we're sending you into space. Bye-bye. And so Reed, upon reflection, after the events of the Civil War and the Secret Invasion, is going, all right, how am I getting so many things wrong? There's so much conflict, so much turmoil amongst what should be friends. How can I fix and solve everything? Pretty big ambition, right? But Reed's a smart guy. So Reed decides to build what he calls a bridge. The bridge allows Reed to access and observe every other multiverse that is out there in an effort to gain more understanding, more data for, hey, what happens in other universes? Like, are Secret Invasions happening in other universes? Are Civil Wars happening in other universes? And so he's just trying to figure out where is the common ground and in which universes are these kind of conflicts avoided. Okay, cool. Problem is the bridge doesn't work in the way that Reed thinks it will. And when he turns it on so that he can start observing all these other universes, he pulls the rest of the Fantastic Four into random universe after random universe. So they get thrust into a ancient world with dinosaurs, and then there's a medieval realm, and then there's freaking pirates, which is hilarious with Johnny Storm being a pirate. That's a fantastic little tease there. Once Reed finally turns the damn machine off, Sue goes, "You're crazy. Destroy the machine and never turn that on again." And Reed goes, "Sure, no problem." So he does. He takes it apart. And then he immediately puts it back together in a secret room that Sue knows nothing about, because in his observations and his travels, Reed discovered the Council of Reeds. So all the other Reed Richards in the multiverse, let me rephrase that, all the most gifted Reed Richards in the multiverse got together, formed their own citadel in the middle of the multiverse to combine their various mental faculties and other powers that they have so that they could solve all the problems in the multiverse. Which is as arrogant as it sounds because they're assuming that, yes, we are the smartest and best of the entire freaking multiverse. And so you have Reeds with Infinity Gauntlets. You have Reeds that have gone from multiverse to multiverse to essentially neuter all the dooms. So they put these collars on all the dooms that destroy their higher brain function and just have this like prison full of brain dead dooms.
Jeez.
Yeah. And Reed's like, yeah, I'm gonna partner with these guys. So that's the Council of Reeds.
Interesting.
That's where I'll leave us off for now. But just a fascinating, like very imaginative storyline, but with all those characters, both the original Fantastic Four that we're all relatively familiar with, and then with the kids, Franklin and Val. Part of what I appreciate is the storylines with the kids, not annoying at all. Like they can more than hold their own. They're very creative, very gifted.
Franklin's an Omega level mutant.
Yeah, Franklin's an absolute freak. Like
a unit.
He's a unit. Like the dude can make and destroy worlds as he pleases.
He's God, essentially.
Yeah, really he is. And Val is just like wicked smart, just incredibly clever, and has a lot of great personality to boot. So it's a lot of fun spending time with the characters. But Council of Reeds, that's where we'll pick up next time. So there you go. There's your Fantastic Four update of the week, or update of the pod, rather. What do you think? Top 5 time?
I think it's top 5. Whoa. By the way, great top 5.
Yeah, right?
That was impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So our top 5, boys and girls, is the top 5 most surprising superhero movies that have been made roughly since 2000. We can go back a little bit further if we want, but you can get a little carried away and go into the 60s and 70s where it gets really strange. So we're going to try and give it that kind of rough parameter. But, there have been a number of movies that truly are astounding that they've been made. As a matter of fact, next month, we're going to have a chance to see Madam Web. And that'll just get added to the list of how on the flip does this get made? Incredible. So I thought we thought it'd be a fun topic to cover. Come up with a top 5 of, from our perspectives, one of the 5 most surprising superhero movies ever made. Riley, you go first.
Okay. So this one, it's going to be a little interesting because you look back on it now and the characters around everywhere and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Yes. At the time, 2008, here's Iron Man hits the big screen. Mm-hmm. That was a surprise to everyone. Okay. He was not a main player. Sure, he was an Avenger. He was, but he was not like a main, dude.
Who knew who the Avengers were?
Right. Right. No one was like, oh, Avengers movie after this. They're like, well, this was a decent, well, it was a fantastic movie. I think everybody's like, oh, this movie was amazing. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, there's more?
Right.
Kevin Feige, genius. So, anyways, that movie, it's mind-boggling that was the one that set everything off. Like, to have Iron Man be the MCU guy to kick it off and get it going is insane to me.
Yeah.
That's my number 5.
I think it's a great pick. I could talk about Iron Man for an entire podcast.
Oh, same. Fantastic movie.
But it is, and it's really helpful when you put it in that context of, and it's hard to imagine now because of how much the MCU has become just immersed in our culture. But prior to the Iron Man movie, there hadn't been Iron Man TV shows of note or other movies, other iterations of the character of note. And you need Avengers? You said to someone in 2008, even before or after, frankly, it doesn't matter, the Iron Man movie is like, hey, so who's in the Avengers? There just hadn't been. It wasn't Marvel as a cultural factor was at such a lesser level. Doesn't mean there weren't great comics being published. There were some outstanding comics being published, but unless you're freaking reading the comic books, like you're not aware, you're not into it. And again, 2008, it's the same year The Dark Knight came out. And yes, The Dark Knight
also a banger.
Was an absolute banger. But it did not produce an entire freaking universe of movies. Like that's something that I think is truly incredible, that Iron Man was the catalyst for dozens of movies and shows that have come since. And The Dark Knight, for as great as it was, it's like, you get one more sequel. And then that's tied off. Mm-hmm. So it takes a lot of vision with Kevin Feige. So absolutely love that pull. Okay. For me, and really the list that I came up with is fairly interchangeable. I don't know if there's one that necessarily stands out, but I'm gonna go with Ghost Rider is my number 5.
Okay.
With dear sweet Nicolas Cage.
I haven't seen it. I want to though.
It's been a long time. The casting, Nick Cage is always entertaining. Sam Hearts.
I know who you're talking about.
Yep. I almost said Sam Neill. It's like, no. That's not right.
Killer stash.
Incredible stash.
Amazing monotone. Yeah, he plays the original Ghost Rider in that, doesn't he? Before Johnny Blaze. Mm-hmm. Doesn't he play the original?
Right. Yeah. Eva Mendes is in there as the love interest for dear sweet Sam Elliott. There we go.
Sam Elliott.
For Nicolas Cage. But it's just like the character concept. Like it's not even, it's not an A, it's not a B, it is a C-list comic character. No.
He's badass. That's all you need to know.
Right. He's got a cool look, but truly still blows me away that character was pulled out and they're like, we're going to make this one into a movie. And then we're going to make another one.
He got 2.
He had 2 movies.
By the way, he got more than Ben Affleck's Daredevil. Can we just... Daredevil, the way more popular character, and Ghost Rider got 2 movies, and he got 1.
It's going to be a theme with some of these picks of mine. There's more than the one. Okay,
fair enough.
So, quick on the heels of, hey, there's more than one of these, is Hellboy.
Oh, wow. That's a good movie, though.
Right, and it is, and that's the thing. Like, the Hellboy movie was...
The original.
Right, was really tremendous. Like, an actual gem in the sense of, this is a comic character that no one is going to know anything about coming into the movie, and yet it does a great job of creating a set of characters and a context that are worthwhile and engaging. And so it's not just Ron Perlman as Hellboy, but the rest of that cast and their really unique characters and their respective abilities were truly, it was just entertaining, right? It's flat out entertaining. So again, it's like, who sees that and goes, hey, let's do a Hellboy movie? Truly, that it just bamboozled me. So that's my number 4, Hellboy.
I didn't even think about Hellboy.
And there are 2 of them. Again, there's 2.
Yeah, and then a remake. It got a remake.
Right.
With Harbor, right?
Yes.
And that did not do very well, from what I understand. So, my number 4 is a character that I thought when we saw him, it would not be in a solo movie. It would be in an Avengers movie. It was Ant-Man. The first Ant-Man. That's up there at number 4 for me.
Yep.
It was like, oh, we're getting Ant-Man. Don't know how I feel about this.
Still blows me away.
Yep, it was the second time that I thought Marvel was going to flop for the first time. But it came out, and don't get me wrong, Paul Rudd, by the way, I think that's what saves the movie. I think with how obscure of a character Ant-Man is, choosing a very well-known, loved actor that no one hates really helps it out.
That is an excellent point. Like, I can't think, literally, I'm not exaggerating, I don't think there's another actor that they put in that role and it works.
I would have.
I just don't think there is.
Honestly, if they would have went with Hank, I would have loved.
Yes.
The guy
yes.
by the way, the guy who plays Hank currently.
Yeah.
If they would have done that 20 years ago,
right,
and had him play Hank,
right.
I still think he would have been a perfect Hank.
Michael Douglas would have been great at that time.
So, like, I think he could nail the complicatedness of Hank. He does it anyways.
Yeah.
So, but
just in aged fashion,
right? Which is also like a crazy and smart move because Hank Pym is way too complicated for the MCU. He's not a good dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that is what was that movie's saving grace.
There's no doubt. Yeah. There's no doubt. There is not another actor that could make that as worthwhile as Paul Rudd did. Totally agree. Love it. Good pull. Good pull. What's your number 3?
My number 3. It comes at a time when we're getting DC movies again. Okay? You're like, oh, Man of Steel, great, that makes sense. Superman versus Batman, I don't know why they're fighting, but okay. The first Suicide Squad is a mind boggle.
Yeah.
Because that, I believe, came out before the first Wonder Woman, did it not?
It did.
We didn't get Wonder Woman. We didn't get Green Lantern. We didn't get Aquaman. We didn't get the Teen Titans. We didn't get a Batman before we got the Suicide Squad. We've had 2 Suicide Squads. The first one, again, cool concept. The idea was there. The execution was not.
Right.
But, that was their pick for, their third DC movie. That's insane.
It is insane. And it's most insane and most misguided because unlike, Hellboy that was just trying to operate independently, right? They're not going, you want to make a Hellboy universe. No, it's just a Hellboy story, right? And it's not trying to connect to a wider universe either. Suicide Squad is saying, hey, we're trying to connect to the existing universe, but you haven't made the universe yet. You got to make the universe before you can connect to it.
Right. Do you know how more effective it would have been if they introduced a Flash movie first and you watch him fight Captain Boomerang between the first act or whatever, and he goes to prison, and at the end of it, he's walking into Walter's arms, and you'd see her starting to build her Task Force X? That would have hit a lot harder.
Correct.
Batman with Deadshot? Do you know how awesome it would have been to have Batman versus Will Smith's Deadshot? That would have been fantastic.
Correct.
Because it's not a matchup you see. No. Ever.
No, it's not. And that, so yeah, conceptually, absolutely, it can work. You can't shoot your shot before you've built the universe that these characters, rely on for the context. It was just, the timing is still so frustrating. Still so frustrating.
That's my number 3.
Yeah. And there's been 2 of those. There's been 2 Suicide Squad movies.
I know. Same
theme.
There's more Suicide Squad movies than Flash movies. Yeah. Think about that.
Yeah. Good Lord. My number 3, Ant-Man. I'm right there with you. I can still remember when Marvel announced they were making an Ant-Man movie, and I was so mad. I was like, no way. Come on. Don't do it. And I have very much changed my tune. It has been worthwhile.
Compared to
Paul Rudd.
Compared to a lot of other stuff we've done.
Yes. So I have changed my tune.
It's one of the better trilogies.
It is. But it still very much surprises me that out of this pantheon of outstanding Marvel characters, Ant-Man, I just don't think is an elite character. And there are probably people out there that are carrying their Ant-Man torches. You know what? Good for you. I'm not going to argue with you and die on that anthill. Good one. But it just truly surprises me that that's the character we're giving a trilogy to. But, okay.
And it's better than Thor. And let that sink in.
Ouch. Yeah, truth hurts. My number 2 is Blade.
Oh, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so I'm stretching the rules here a little bit because I had originally said, hey, from 2000 on, your first Blade movie came out in 98.
It's
close enough.
It's fine.
But think of how taboo it is right now for Marvel to make a R-rated movie. Allow me to give you a trilogy of hard R movies with both the words and the deeds. I mean, the language is R-rated and the violence, holy buckets. You got the vampire killer with a bunch of vampires, and it's something that's a little like unsettling about late 90s, like early 2000s. And I'm not a big, you know this, I don't like gore, violence in movies. I can do it. There's just certain limits for me. These movies, especially the first one, like push that limit. There's just some gross, like truly gross vampire violence in these movies. Now, Wesley Snipes freaking crushes it.
Oh yeah, he's Blade.
He's
100% Blade.
So I don't know. I don't understand how this happened. How a Blade movie, again, no one's gonna know who that is. I think it has everything to do. It's kind of the Paul Rudd Ant-Man effect. Wesley Snipes in the late 90s was a big enough deal that you put him in an action movie. It just turns out it's about a comic book character. People are gonna go see it, and so it worked and turned into a trilogy. But Blade, my number 2.
Fun fact, they're making a Blade video game. Fun fact. It actually looks kind of dope. Anyways.
Yeah, that doesn't have to be bad. That could be good.
It could be really good. Dang it.
Okay. There you go.
So my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be like, that's your number 2? What's your number 1? Okay. Morbius.
Mm-hmm.
Morbius is my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell did that movie get made? I'm still confused. Doesn't make any sense at all. Okay? Venom, I get it. It's a Spider-Man. One makes 100% sense. You make a trilogy out of Venom. I'm all on board. I love me Venom. But out of all the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery, after Venom, in a draft, let's say we're drafting Spider-Man villains to make trilogies on. Morbius ain't going in the draft. He's a free agent.
Oh my gosh.
And he's lucky to be in the league. He gets picked up.
Even allowed.
He only gets picked up because the 3 other choices you picked bomb.
Everything you're saying is 100% correct. We just spent a good chunk of time talking about 3 different Spider-Man games that Insomniac has released. And has our dear sweet Morbius been a villain in any of those?
Nope.
And that's really okay. Because
hasn't popped up.
Worthwhile.
He might pop up in the 3rd one, but I don't care if he pops up in the 3rd one. There's way too many other interesting Spider-Man villains.
It's just not worth it. Just not worth it.
Well, actually, after this 3rd one, then I could see like the Jackal and Morbius coming in, but this was beside the point.
Right.
So,
right. No, seriously, it's a how. Okay, I'm gonna go a little out of order here. Morbius is my number 1. Okay, that's my number 1. So I'm delighted to hear what your number 1 is. But the reason I'm going out of order is because I was looking over at my list and I wrote down Mobius instead of Morbius. I left out the R. I'm like, Mobius. So I'm actually really glad you went first because I definitely would say Mobius, the movie. Sorry, Owen Wilson.
And that's not fair to Owen.
Sorry. No. So as soon as you said Morbius, I'm like, what? Oh, yeah, of course. Morbius, not Mobius. Good grief. Oh my gosh. So I had to share that little nugget, but I'm right there with you. I have no idea how that movie got made. No idea. It's still crazy to me. It was as bad as it should have been. So, Miles, what's your number 1?
Well, what's your number 2?
Oh, my number 2?
Yeah.
No, my number 2 is Blade. My number 2.
That was your number 2?
Yep. Yep. My number 2 is Blade. So. Ghost Rider number 5. Hellboy number 4.
So I went 2 and then you went 1. So you skipped my 1.
Yep. I skipped your 1. So Hellboy was 3. Blade is 2. Morbius not be confused.
So my number 1 was the first time I was ever stumped. By a movie. Okay, I remember being in school.
Yep.
And I was the comic book kid.
Sure.
Okay? I was kind of a geek.
Right.
That's great. Fantastic.
That's great.
So I knew a lot of characters because I remember one summer I spent my entire summer on the computer learning every single character, A through Z, Marvel-wise. I got to S. That's impressive. So, anyways,
that's really good.
Sweet brag. Everybody calm down. Okay? My number one, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
The first one. This is what...
It's a great pull.
This movie, when it came out, I was like, this is Marvel's first bomb. I remember my buddy, one of my best friends at the time, was like, hey, dude, what's this Guardians of the Galaxy movie all about? I was like, I have no idea. He's like, what? He's like, I have no idea. I've never heard of it.
He's like, he's relying on you because you're the guy.
Yeah. And he's like, really? I was like, never heard of it in my life.
Yes.
So we both went in there like not knowing what to expect. And we probably got, and this might be a bold comparison, but to me, Guardians of the Galaxy is my generation Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
It is our galaxy out in space. That's our Star Wars. It's our Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is for us, is Guardians of the Galaxy. It was that unique take on a band of misfits that no one thought would ever do anything good.
Yeah.
And they made it a banger. The best trilogy in all of Marvel is Guardians of the Galaxy. It's not close. It's not close. It's the only one.
Yeah, it's I don't disagree at all. And I thought about that while I was making my top 5, and I don't know why it's not in my top 5. Picked other movies, but I love that it's your number one because, especially in the context of what? I mean, there aren't even good Guardians of the Galaxy comics that exist for the makers of that movie to draw from and go, hey, this is a really inspiring story. We're going to kind of form our tale around that. Like, truly, it took a lot of creativity for our guy James Gunn and his associates to go, all right, so here's the characters we're going to use, but we're going to twist this, tweak that, to make them worthwhile, and then to give them 3 straight stories that were worth telling. Like, that's incredible.
And I will say this, too, right? The movie is about a pack of misfits, right? Yes. That was the cast. Okay? Your biggest actor was voicing a raccoon.
Yep.
All right? His face was not there.
Very much
This is what...
Your second biggest was voicing the tree that said 3 words.
Correct. This movie catapulted Chris Pratt into what he is today.
Correct.
100%.
Correct.
Zoe Saldana, great actress.
Yeah.
I think Avatar probably has established her already before that.
True, yeah. She had Star Trek and Avatar.
But she wasn't
she's
like...
right in there with,
she still wasn't like an A-lister.
Than Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel. But still more so than Chris Pratt.
And Batista was a WWE superstar. All right? And now look at him.
Yeah.
He is like a serious actor now.
That doesn't happen for all those WWE guys. Like my Blade trilogy that I referenced earlier, Triple H, he's in the 3rd Blade movie.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's still wrestling. That's what he does. Yeah, he's not a movie star.
Right? Is he a vampire?
Oh yeah. 100%. He and Ryan Reynolds have some phenomenal scenes together.
I love that so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, if you don't watch any of the Blade movies, watch the 3rd one because of Ryan Reynolds.
I love him.
He's a freaking delight. But you're absolutely right. Like, the cast of the band of misfits, James Gunn, like, he hadn't done anything that any of us knew about.
No.
Or know about even now.
Besides Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, he wrote that. So,
okay.
Fantastic.
Kudos.
That was the movie of my childhood. Anyways. He was a producer on those movies.
But that's one of those just wonderful delights when everything on the surface says this shouldn't exist, but then it exists, and it's awesome, right? Like, it is such a pleasant, not just even a pleasant surprise, but just an unexpected addition to the library of, hey, this is what I enjoy. Like, that's truly wonderful. Yeah. Really great. Love that number 1 pull on your part, Riles. All right, my guy. Well done. I think that's it.
I think we're wrapping. Yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
Well,
wrap that gift up.
On that note, Godspeed.
Peace.